share with you a time when I first started teaching this, that I thought that teaching this was actually really complicated. And I thought that what you had to do to get someone good is that you had to go through and analyze every single individual sticking point to fix them. And I'm going to tell you about this with the very first student that I ever taught in America. Now, if you've worked with me, if you've trained with me, you will know who this student is. If you're just watching this DVD, or if you guys are in the room and you don't know who he is, then you won't really grasp just how big a deal this is. This was my first student ever that I ever trained when I came to America. And you know, I really thought that, that this guy was kind of like one of the worst students that you could ever get. And I'm going to share with you just some of the things that I had to deal with this guy. The very first time that I trained him, I invited him to come and live in my house. And I actually take private students, and I'll let them live in my house, and I'll train with them on a long-term basis. And I found, and still find, that that's one of the best ways to guarantee results. And so I invited this guy to come and live with me. Now, I have a few strict rules about when people live with me now based on this guy. You see, it all started when we went out shopping to get food. And so we're going through the supermarket, and he's so fixated on approaching and talking to girls, or not approaching, but wanting to, that he doesn't buy any food. And I remind him that he's going to be in my house for a week. He's going to need some food to eat. So without thinking about it, he reaches out, and he grabs a packet of chicken thighs, and he just throws it in the basket. And he goes, "There we go, food." And I'm like, "You're kidding me, right, dude? Like, just chicken thighs?" He's like, "Chicken's good for you. I read it on the internet." And thus was the story and the start of my training with this guy. So we get back to my house that night, and you know, I start cooking some food. I'm like, "Hey, bro, tonight you don't have to cook if you don't want to. You can just eat food with me. Like, I've made plenty." And he's like, "No, no, no. I insist on cooking. I bought my own food, and I will be cooking it. Chicken's good for you, don't you know? I read it on the internet." And so, sure enough, he gets his chicken, and he sticks it in the oven, and we sit down, and our food's ready, and we start eating. And after about an hour and a half, I realize he's still not eating any food. And I'm like, "Dude, what about your food?" And he goes, "Oh, no, it's still cooking." So I decided that I should probably check on this to see what's going on. So I go into the kitchen, and I see the oven, and I realize it's not on. And I say, "Dude, you know, chicken cooks a lot faster if you turn it on." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, great, great." So I open the oven, pull out the frying pan, and see the packet of unopened chicken sitting on top of the frying pan. And I look at him and I say, "Do you know how to cook chicken?" And he goes, "Can't be hard, just put it in the oven, right?" This was the start of the issues that I had with this guy. One of my favorites is we were getting ready to go out on the second day of training with him, and he comes out to the car and he's drenched in water, like completely drenched head to toe. And he's about to get in my car. I'm like, "Dude, why are you wet?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You're wet, man. Like, I can see it, like head to toe. You are soaked in water. Like, what's wrong with you?" And he goes, "Nothing." I'm like, "Oh, no. Something's wrong, man. Like, I'm not kidding. You are literally soaked head to toe." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And so I'm just like really confused at how to handle this. So I just pull his clothes off of him, and like it's like soaking wet. I'm like, "Look, see the water?" He goes, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, "Well, how did that happen?" He goes, "Well, I got this thing." I'm like, "What thing do you have?" And he goes, "Well, after I wash my hands, I have to throw the water into the air 30 times, otherwise bad things happen." And I thought, you know, with us going out to meet girls today, I should probably make sure that bad things don't happen. And these were the kind of problems I had with this guy. And I'll be honest with you, this was the longest student I ever trained. And it took a long time, because I was trying to undo all these behaviors. So these were things that I thought were wrong. And I'd be like, "The fact you soak yourself in water before you go out, that's holding you back, bro." I was like, "The fact you can't cook chicken, these are problems. You got to fix each." And I would go through every little behavior he had. Like the behavior that at midnight every day, he had to go and get a milkshake. No matter wherever he is or whatever he was doing, he had to get a milkshake at midnight. So he'd be out, he'd be talking to a girl, and then he'd leave and go and get a milkshake. And I'm like, "Where'd you go?" And he goes, "I'm next door, I'm grabbing a milkshake." "Where's the girl?" "Oh, she didn't want one." And it was mind-blowing what I dealt with for years. And then I realized I was making it hard, not him. It was difficult because of me. You see, the thing was, I was so busy fixing all these little details that didn't really matter. What I should have instead focused on were just the simple things. And so, honestly, after 4 years of working with this guy, I realized I had to change the approach. And so I sat him down one day, and I was like, "Dude, we're going to change this. We're going to completely change the way I teach you." And I got him to do the things I'm about to share with you guys. Within a week, he had completely transformed the way he did things. Now, I'm not saying he got no results. After 4 years, he was getting results, but not what he wanted. But the change within a week was night and day. Within that 1 week, he went from being a guy that was going out and kind of talking to girls and occasionally getting results, and it was hit or miss, to being somebody who every single time he went out, he picked up girls. Now, one of my favorite moments for this guy was actually at the PUA Summit. I think it was about in 2010, give or take, something around like that. It was one of these big conventions where pickup artists all meet up. And I'd been invited to speak, and he came along with me as a guest. And while he was there, he didn't listen to a single speaker. Instead, he went on a date, a legitimate date, during the day with every single female in the room, one after the other. And while every other guy was there watching and learning how to pick up girls, he was taking them all out one by one. The female instructors, the girlfriends, it didn't matter. He would be like, hey, let's go and grab a coffee. I'd like to talk to you more about blah, 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 whatever it is they were doing. One by one, he would just walk them all out of the room. And at the end of the day, he'd be like, man, this stuff's so easy, I don't see why people struggle. In fact, this guy, he was doing so well with game that at one point, he had 4 different girlfriends in an open relationship. And the last time I checked in with him, he actually told me that he thinks he's found the one, and he was thinking about moving in with her.